is Jayden Wintrode, and today I interviewed Danielle, who's been teaching first grade for 26 years.
How did you kind of decide that you wanted to be a teacher?
Well, I started my degree in special education, and I had some interactions with some kiddos that demonstrated some needs, and it just felt like it was a career path that I felt like I could make an impact. So when I first started, I went to Westchester and I got my degree in special education. And when I was finished with that, I decided right away I wanted to get my master's degree in elementary ed, just in case I felt like, after a while I needed to get a different experience in the classroom. I thought that would be a nice way to, be able to service kids, but in a bit of a different way. So I decided to stay in special ed, and I did that for about 15 years. And I just finished my 11th year in first grade this past June. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
And when did you decide you wanted to be a teacher?
I would say my sophomore year when I was at Penn State, I had started and I was thinking about doing physical therapy and occupational therapy. And I just didn't really feel like that was a career path that would really kind of go with my personality. And then I took a class that was in the elementary ed college. And I just felt like it was definitely something that I could see myself doing for a career after I was finished.
That's good. I was kind of the same way. I went into college thinking I was wanting to do something completely different than what I ended up wanting to do. Like,
Yeah, 100%. And it's so crazy because everyone is always so pushy about having a major decided going into your freshman year. And it's not definitely something that, I mean, you don't really know what you want to do. Not many people, I should say, know what they want to do right out of high school.
hmm Yeah, that's true. And I feel like you always feel like you're supposed to, but then sometimes I feel like it's the best thing. Like I went in undecided and it was really good for me just to figure out what I actually wanted to do.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, and it's good to have like your, first level classes when you're a freshman to kind of expose yourself to different kinds of majors that are available. And there's things out there that people don't even know are available for you to do. So it's nice to have that opportunity to be able to, kind of dip your toe in a bunch of different things.
hmm Yeah. And what would you say, like maybe a day to day of you now being a teacher? What would that look like for you?
Mm. Well, it's definitely, you're on every minute of every day. It does not really give you the flexibility that many jobs have. You don't get to just use the restroom when you want to. You really can't have an off day when you're not feeling great and you just want to sit at your computer and, kind of just, especially with the primary kids, when you're not feeling well, it's not something where you can kind of say, I'm gonna go in and just kind of give myself a pretty relaxed day so that I can, make myself get through the day. You are on every minute of every day. They are in your room from the minute they get off the bus. They go to specials for their 45 minutes, and then for the rest of the day, they're there in your classrooms, in your desks, doing, everything that you need to have them do. So it is definitely a job that is extremely, I would say, I know the word I want to say, but I'm not going to say it. It's very attention driven. Like you need to make sure you're on every minute of every day.
hmm That
I mean,
makes
high school, I think, and the intermediate levels are a bit different, but at the primary level, that's just not, and you definitely assume many different roles. You're a teacher, but you're also a lot of times like a mom to the kids because you spend more time with them at school than they do at home.
mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I would say day to day, it's constant. You don't get the opportunity to like, take a phone call or call the doctor. So
Yeah, that must be a lot. So
it's a lot. And I don't think people know that that's one of the things. Like teaching is great. It is, 100% like, you get to see progress, you get to see growth, but like there's some things that, aren't so great. Like if you, wake up in the middle of the night, you can't just call out sick. You have to develop a plan for someone to step in and take over for you. if your kids wake up in the middle of the night and sick, it's not like you can just call out. Like that is not the way that teaching is. Like you have to make sure that you are providing with, to them, the plans for the day as if you were there.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. That kind of almost answered my next question, but I was going to say, like, what skills would you say are necessary for someone that wants to be a teacher?
Management. That's not something they really teach you when you're in college. They just kind of assume that you have to teach the curriculum and they teach you different strategies on how to deliver that curriculum. But, most of the time you're managing adults, especially if you have classes that have inclusion with, kids who demonstrate, you know, difficulties. You have other teachers that you have to work with and collaborate with. And that's not definitely, I don't feel like that's a priority that they give you. They more focus on, the different ways of teaching, but like managing is really hard. When you're dealing with different support teachers and different assistants that come in and support kids, it can be definitely a challenging situation learning how to do that if you don't have the experience, because you have people that come in and you're trying to manage the 22 or 23 kids that are in front of you, and you're teaching them how to sound out words, and you have other people that and it's hard because you have people who come in and they're there to support the kids and they're behind their phones.
Mm.
And you're saying, you always say, like, model the model. Like, you want them to do what you're doing. So if you want them to manage themselves in a certain way, or even just do things a certain way, you have to model it to them, and when they see those things, it makes your job even more challenging.
Hmm. Yeah, it must be difficult teaching at this time where it seems like everyone's on their phones or giving their kids iPads. Their attention span must be difficult.
It's hard, and when you have adults that are not noticing that they're not able to manage themselves and the kids see it, that's another layer of like things that you have to do in addition to making sure that the kids are progressing in the curriculum.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that must be tough, especially because I feel like kids nowadays, I I think they're a lot more obsessed with kind of technology and stuff like that.
Oh, 100%.
Have
Yeah,
you had
the
to like
amount of screen
adapt?
time that they have has gotten higher and higher every single year.
Yeah. Does that make your teaching like have you had to adapt in any ways because of that?
It definitely makes it more challenging because, me standing up there and, tapping out, CVC words is definitely not as exciting as the kids playing Minecraft or, jumping on Roblox. So
Mhm.
you try to, somehow make it a little bit more inventive and a little bit more interactive. And you try to do it so that, they're constantly engaged, because the minute you've lost their attention and their engagement in the lesson, it's a very challenging thing to retrieve. So
Mhm.
just kind of trying to make it as interactive as possible and making them feel like they're, definitely, responsible for their learning as well.
Mhm. And another question I have is what advice do you think that you would give to yourself in high school or like skill sets maybe that you wish you developed earlier if you could think back to high school
Hmm.
you?
I mean, I feel like management was always something that I felt like I needed to learn. And I feel like behavior, and I feel like too, behaviors were another thing that, they do focus on it, but, you know, it's very much like, okay, this is the behavior, this is what you do, but that isn't always the case. So I feel like the management part of it, I feel like I've definitely improved. And um, one of the things that I felt like I definitely wasn't the greatest at when I first started teaching was transitions. Like, I would just assume that we would go from one activity to the next without, like, I was like, okay, well, we're done this. And I remember in student teaching, I remember teaching a lesson and I was like, okay, I'm done. And the kids are like, great. And I'm like, oh, what do we do next? And I'm like, oh my goodness. So learning that you have to, like, can constantly, even if you're transitioning from one to the next, like making sure that you've set the expectation. And I do a lot of like countdowns and like setting the expectation for them prior to them leaving your spot. So it's like you're sitting on the carpet, you're finishing up a lesson, you need them to go back to their seats and you need to get their book out, open to a certain page, making sure that you set those expectations up prior to them leaving you. And I felt like that is definitely something that I've kind of definitely improved upon as I've gotten, in the classroom and being a regular education teacher versus special ed is also very different. Like a special ed teacher, you may have 2 kids in your class at one time, but
Mhm.
in regular ed, you have like 25 that you have to 25. That's a lot
Yeah, for one person.
for one person. Yeah. And they're like, they're just learning, and we don't have a full day kindergarten. So they're coming in from a half day. It's 2.5 hours. They're used to going home after they finish up, taking a little afternoon nap,
Mhm.
and just getting them to understand like the grit and the way they have to kind of like get themselves through the day. So
Mhm.
it's definitely, I feel like management, I feel like was one thing. And also like just transition times was definitely something I wish that I had a little bit stronger of a ability when I first started.
Yeah, that makes
Did I
sense.
answer that question or
Yeah,
did I
no,
not?
you did. Because those
Okay.
things I feel like I wouldn't think about too if I was like younger and wanting to be a teacher. Those are
Yeah.
very, yeah, specific. And that kind of leads to my next question
Hmm.
about what do you think are some misconceptions about teaching when people maybe want to be a teacher?
Oh, well, everyone has summers off. Everyone's like, oh, I love to be a teacher because everyone gets their summers off. It's like, yeah, that is definitely one of the perks, but understand that, a lot of people think that being a teacher is really, really easy.
Mhm.
And I have had many conversations with people who have absolutely no idea. They have no idea what it's like. They think you just go in and you teach them their ABCs and their one, two, threes, and that's that. That's it. That's the day. They don't factor in any of like the emotions that the kids have or like changes in schedule that we have. Everybody thinks that it is just a very easy job and you get your summers off. But understand that I think a lot of people are intrigued by that because it's definitely a job that is wonderful because you do get your summers off. But the amount of time that you put in the school year definitely balances out that break.
Mhm.
Because you have report cards, you have parent teacher conferences, you have back to school night, you have data collection, you have assessments that need to be graded, you have parents, you have emails, you have so many things that people just don't think about when you think about teaching.
Mhm. Yeah, that definitely makes sense, especially what you were saying earlier too about how even if you want a day off, it's a whole process where
Oh,
you have to
100%.
try to find a substitute or things like that.
Oh yeah, and when you think like it's one of those things where like we're in a teacher shortage now, and it's if you wake up in the middle of the night, you can't like I've had times where like Jessie woke up in the middle of the night and I had to take her to the hospital, and I take bring her back home, and I'm literally sitting at my kitchen table at 2 o'clock in the morning, writing plans because I knew I wasn't going to be able to come to school, but I had to get them done so that they would be ready for the substitute to come in. I mean, I would go in my pajamas at 7 o'clock in the morning and set my plans up for the entire day and then go home while Keith stayed with the kids so that I could get home to be with them for the day. But I needed to make sure that my plans were set. That's not typical for most careers.
Yeah,
You don't have, I
it's
mean,
all out.
you know it. I mean, when mom and dad like don't feel well, they can do what they need to do in a different way.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's definitely a good one. And I guess I'm wrapping up to my final question.
Okay.
But what would you say, just any advice for someone that is maybe wanting to be a teacher or things that they should be more like a natural skill that they should have? I'm sure like patience and things like that.
Compassion,
Mm-hmm.
flexibility, compassion, flexibility, um, making sure you need to understand you're always going to have bad days, but I always try to come away with it saying, okay, that wasn't the best lesson, but what can I do next time to make it better? Like, always understand that you're not every day is going to be an amazing teaching day. Like, you're going to have days where you're going to like say to yourself, like, oh my gosh, like, I feel like I have never done this before. And I've been doing this for 25 years. And there's days when I come home and I'm like, you know what? I had a great teaching day today. And then there's other days where I come home and I'll be like, I feel like I had no idea what I was doing today. So understand that like, you're gonna have your good days and your bad days. Be
Mm-hmm.
flexible. Know that things change all the time. I mean, I've literally had the last 5 years, every year I get a brand new curriculum. This is the first year I would say in 5 years that I'm not going to have a new curriculum to learn and to teach. which is amazing. Because like last year we got science, the year before that we had ELA, the year before that we got a writing curriculum. So it's always changing. So don't think that like you can set your plans up and they're gonna be the same plans that you teach for the next 10 years. No.
Mm.
Nope.
Oh,
So I
wow.
feel like flexibility, compassion,
Mm.
can be able to take constructive criticism.
Mm.
That's always hard. And you can always improve, even if it's like the littlest thing.
Mm-hmm. So you have to reflect a lot, I guess.
Absolutely. Like I have a little thing inside of my classroom, and it was given to me by my student teacher, and it says, push the reset button. And I say that to myself often
Mm.
because I might leave for the day and I'm like, oh man, I have to hit that reset button. Because when the kids leave in June, you assume that when they come back in September, they're the same kids that you just sent off to second grade. But you have to remember that you have to hit that reset button. And I remember going to my grade partner one day and I said, I think I hit it, but I don't think I pushed it all the way down on the keyboard. And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, I think I only half reset. I think I've got to go back and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And just know that like that, and that happens often, even in the middle of the school year. Like, oh, wait a minute. Gotta hit the reset button. I gotta like get myself back to ground zero and like look at it in a different way.
That's good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That was good advice.
Yeah.